Hi guys, this is your reading for the week of January 8th through the 14th, and as usual, before I do anything else, I really want to take a moment to thank all of you who have been supporting me and supporting this channel. I say it every week, but I want to make sure that there's never a week that goes by where I don't say it, because I do genuinely appreciate each and every single one of you and all of the various ways that you show support for me and the work that I'm doing here. Doesn't matter whether you are a silent supporter or whether you're interacting with me very directly, there's never anything that's too small to be beneath my notice. And I really value all of you and the ways in which you contribute to my growth and contribute to my life. This whole thing has been such an incredible experience for me. And I'm just so appreciative of all of you and how you've been part of that, been part of my journey, and all of the ways in which you've allowed me to be part of your journey as well. Even if you just watch the videos, you're still allowing me to be part of your lives and to give you an opportunity to expand your horizons or shift your perspectives on things or to confirm what you already know within you. And I value that opportunity so much. And for those of you who reach out to me more directly, I love those exchanges. I love having the chance to hear your stories and talk to you, to share guidance, with you, or be able to help you in any way that I can. But I also love all the ways in which you expand my horizons too and help me to look at things in new ways. And all of the ways in which you help me to grow more into who I actually am and to see myself more clearly. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for all of the ways that you support me. And, on that note, there's been so many of you who have reached out to me who have offered your services or offered your support for me in very tangible ways. Whether that is offering to be like a virtual assistant for me, or whether you're just sending me messages of encouragement, giving me feedback, sending me messages that are funny to make me laugh, or, there's so many ways that you guys are there for me and that you give back, whether, some of you have given energy work for me, like Reiki sort of stuff. Some of you have pulled cards for me because you've just felt guided to. There's just been so many ways that you guys have given back, and I'm very humbled by that. I appreciate it so much. You have no idea how much that means to me, and how much it's really helping me to grow and feel this sense of community beyond anything that I ever believed was possible. And I love too that there's so many of you that I've interacted with that are spread out all over the world. That's been amazing for me too, to have exposure to different cultures and different ways of thinking that I normally wouldn't have been able to get exposure to. So thank you for that. And as always, it does take me a while to get back to you guys. This week has been particularly hectic and crazy for me. I've had some health stuff going on. It was unexpected. And I've had all of my usual stuff going on too. It just seems like there's been more of it. So please know that I'm not ignoring any of your messages. I just literally have not had time to sit down and answer many messages at all. So I will be getting back to you as always. If more than a week goes by and you haven't heard from me, please feel free to reach out again. Because a lot of times what happens is, I'll get a notification of something and I'll accidentally click on it, and then it marks, that message as being read, and I didn't actually get the chance to read it, and so it just gets lost in the shuffle. So if it's been more than a week, you can reach out to me again. But thank you so much for your patience in waiting for these responses from me. I know a lot of you contact me with questions that are kind of time sensitive, and I don't always get back to you right away. So thank you for your patience and for being so understanding. I really appreciate that. And also, I really want to give a shout out to those of you who have been donating to the channel. This past week, I received a couple of very generous donations, one of which totally blew my mind, and I actually was taking a drink of water at the time and I nearly choked because I was just so shocked by that generosity. So thank you so much for those financial contributions, either through donations or through booking sessions with me. I have been trying to switch over more to this work specifically, but still my primary means of income is as a massage therapist. And that's something I've been doing for 6 years, and I love that work, but it's time for me to go through a change, and I have much more of a passion for this work. And also I've got a physical condition I mentioned last week that causes my joints to deteriorate pretty rapidly. And that's been getting worse over the last couple of years. And so having the ability to cut back even one day of doing massage is such a huge weight off of my shoulders. So thank you for helping me out financially. Thank you for saving my body, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to devote myself more to this work. And since I'm soon going to be cutting that day, towards the middle of this month, I will be shifting around my schedule a little bit so that I will have a little more time to be accessible to you guys. And as time goes on, I'll cut back more and more days of massage, and I'm hoping that within a year's time, I will be able to devote myself completely to this line of work. So thank you to all of you who help with that. And even if you are not contributing financially, again, all of you who have offered assistance to me in encouragement and love and support in other ways, I greatly value that too. It's not about the money. It's about all of the ways that you guys show your support and your love for me. So thank you as always for that. So there are a couple of things that are shifting around that I'm changing with different functional. So I've been noticing the last few weeks that a lot of the clients that I have been getting have been, even if they've come to me for other things, we've ended up talking about kind of their direction and their soul path and, career things, stuff like that. And that was not what I ever anticipated I would be doing. In fact, when I first started Different Functional, I wanted the life coaching to be the bigger focus point. And I don't think I put it in the website, but I actually contemplated putting that I basically do life coaching on any topic except career, because I didn't feel like business or career was really my forte. But so many of my clients recently, no matter why they've contacted me initially, we end up talking about that. And I've discovered, quite surprisingly, that I have a real passion for helping people to connect to their innate spiritual gifts and abilities, helping them figure out how that manifests into their skill sets, how they can develop those skill sets further, how they can implement all of these gifts and skills into a tangible format so that they can move forward in their career, their relationships, or just life in general in a very powerful way. So what I'm doing basically is I'm broadening my spectrum, my scope, if you will, for Different Functional. So before, I was primarily working with people who were having some relationship issues, especially the twin flame community. And I was also working with people who have mental health conditions who are trying to address them through alternative means, because that's what I've done for myself. I'm bipolar and on the autism spectrum, and I've been able to mitigate all of the obstacles that come with that, the things that hold me back, and then really emphasize all the positive things that I get from the bipolar and the autism. Because I don't think of those things in terms of illness, I think of them more in terms of personality type. And like with any personality, you always try to emphasize the strengths and mitigate any weaknesses. So those were the two primary areas that I was really working with people on. And I wanted to branch out a little bit more and work with more people who have had traumatic backgrounds, especially in childhood and trauma within their family, or codependency or addiction, things like that. But I'm realizing now how much I was still, even though I wanted to take this holistic approach to these things, I was still narrowing my focus too much. And so that's really what's going on, is I'm really broadening the way that I perceive things and the way that I go about things, in the sense that I'm still going to be working with the twin flames. I'm still going to be working with people who have those mental health concerns. Nothing about that has changed, but the way that I'm going about things and the way I'm perceiving things is changing, where I'm really taking a bigger picture view. And even when I'm addressing those specific things, I'm going to be thinking about things in terms of how this relates to your life path, and how we can help you further along in whatever your goals are overall, instead of just focusing on individual components. So that's the big shift that's happening with Different Functional. So if you are looking for that kind of guidance, especially vocational guidance, like I said, that's something I've been doing a lot of lately, and I'm finding that I really have a passion for it. So I would love to work with you if that's something that you're kind of struggling with and you feel stuck on. There are a few other things that are changing in terms of, like, more specifically, like services and whatnot. So the most simple one is that there are a lot of you who have been inquiring about, like, gift certificates, and I didn't previously have the capacity to offer gift certificates through the scheduling system that I had. And I guess for some reason I never really thought of that as being a thing, that people would want gift certificates, but I have now got it set up so that you guys can actually purchase those. Now, I wasn't able to set it up for like an open-ended number where you choose the amount. I wish I could have, but I wasn't able to figure out how to do that. So what I do have is increments of $20. So we have gift certificates now ranging from $20 to $200. And if you go into the schedule and appointment section of the website and you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the service menu, that's where you'll find the gift certificates. Now on your way scrolling down to those gift certificates, you'll see another couple of things that are new. And what that is I've got now packages for services and also subscriptions. So the reason why I decided to make these is because I'm starting to get a lot of clientele that's repeat, and a lot of people who are scheduling on a fairly consistent basis, more so than I imagined there would be. And I want to make this experience more affordable for you, because I know when you start scheduling these sessions on a fairly regular basis, it can start getting pretty expensive. So I started doing the packages and the subscriptions to make things more affordable. Now, what differentiates these two things is the packages basically means that you pay one solid chunk of money and you get 5 sessions for the price of 4 sessions. So you're paying for 4 and then you get the last session for free. So you can either do it that way if you have just one chunk of money that you want to toss in, or if you can't afford to do that, because I know a lot of people can't afford to, I wouldn't be able to afford to do that, I also have subscriptions now. And what that basically is you sign up for 6 months and you get billed monthly over the course of that 6 months for sessions. Now, what you get from doing that is you get 20% off of the purchase price of those sessions. So if you are somebody who's wanting to schedule more frequently, who's wanting multiple sessions to kind of find a sense of direction or to work through a complex issue, this is a really great way for you to do that and have it be more affordable. So I hope that that helps you guys. I hope that that makes it more feasible for you, and that you'll be able to reach out for assistance and help if you need it. So we'll see how all of that goes, and we may shift things around and change things in the future based on how this price point goes and all of that, and how many people sign up for it and whatnot. So I'm sure things will change a bit in the future as we kind of develop a system here. But I did want to provide that option for you guys because I do want this to be affordable. I want to be accessible for you, regardless of where you're at in terms of your budget. I really want to work with you and help you to get to where it is that you're going, because it's honestly not about the money for me. I need that. I need the income so that I can pay my bills and all of that, because I'm still a person too, and I still have things that I have to pay off. So, I do have to have that income, but I want to be able to work with you where you're at and help you to get to where you're going, help you reach your goals too. There is one more service that I have added. Now, this service is not going to be in the schedule and appointment area, and that's because it's not a live session or anything like that. But I've had a lot of people reach out to me recently, and they're like, I have a simple question, and I don't really feel like it necessitates an entire reading. Is there any way that you can just pull a card or two for me, and I can pay you whatever? And my answer had basically been to be like, okay, well, yeah, I can pull a couple cards for you, and you can just donate to the channel. But what I've now done is I've actually created a service, and you'll find this in the shop section of the website. And all of these links are going to be in the description box below. So what this is basically is you'll have an option between 1 and 4 cards, and this allows you to ask just a simple question. The cards are going to be relatively generalized, because if you've had a session with me, and based on the videos you can tell, when I pull cards, when I do a tarot spread, I pull a lot of cards because I like there to be a very distinct storyline that shows up so that I can really hone in on things, and it's not just a general message. So this option is going to be a little bit more generalized because I just can't take the time to do a ton of it. And when I do an actual session with you, I like being able to have that interaction with you so that we can, go over clarifying questions, things like that. But if you have just a simple question that you don't feel necessitates an entire live session with me, this will provide you an opportunity to just ask that question. When you purchase this service, you'll select how many cards you want me to pull between 1 and 4, and it's basically $5 per card. And then you will type in your question in the notes section, and make sure that you type in the email that you want me to send it to, because what I'm basically going to be doing is sending you in like text format the answer to your question. So it's not an audio recording or a visual recording. What it is I will take a picture of the cards and include that with the email, and then I will also be typing up the interpretation of what the cards mean and how they apply to the specific question you asked. So not only is this a really good tool for those of you who just have a quick question that you don't require an entire session for, this is also a really good tool for those of you who are maybe sitting on the fence a little bit about whether or not to schedule a session. There are so many readers out there, so many amazing resources. And again, it can get kind of pricey to set up sessions with all sorts of different people to find the right vibrational match for you. So this is a good way for you to kind of test out the waters in a way that's inexpensive, so that you can feel out if I'm actually a vibrational match to assist you. And then from there, you can make a decision about whether or not you want to schedule a full session with me. So this is a great tool for those of you who have simple questions that don't require a full reading, and those of you who are kind of on the fence about whether or not to schedule a session with me. Because ultimately, I don't want you guys to waste your money on a full reading if you don't feel like you're going to be if you don't feel like we're going to have the chemistry and that energetic connection so that I can give you those clear answers. So this is a really great way. If you don't feel certain, go ahead and get, 1 to 4 cards, and that'll give you an idea of kind of how I am and how our energy interacts with each other and that sort of thing. One thing I will say, for those of you who are twin flames, and a lot of you contacted me personally about this, I do not do twin flame confirmations, and that's one of the most common questions that I get asked is the person that I think my twin flame actually my twin flame? I do not do twin flame confirmations. Sometimes when I do a session for you, your team will channel a message to me and tell me to confirm it for you, or I'll pull a card that's a definite sign of twin flame connection, but I never guarantee that. And the reason why, for me, it's an ethical thing, because I believe that the only 2 people on this planet who can be certain of that are you and your twin. Now, other people can give you very educated guesses. I can give you an educated guess. I prefer not to, though. And the reason for that is because I really feel that the only way that you'll ever know who your true twin flame is if you feel it at that soul level. And you can't get that from external validation. It doesn't matter how many external confirmations you get. Until you know that yourself from within at that soul level, you'll never really feel certain of it. So for me, I don't do twin flame confirmations. It's an ethical thing for me. If your team channels it to me, I will give you that. But if you're going to be utilizing the service to ask if the person you think is your twin flame is actually your twin flame, please don't utilize it for that. I will refund you if you do, or you can ask a different question, but I don't do the twin flame confirmations. There are a lot of readers who do, and if you're curious about that, contact me directly and I will give you some information on readers who do. I don't have anything against people who do. I just personally choose not to unless I'm specifically guided by your team to give you that confirmation. So that was the only disclaimer that I had on that front, and that should take care of all of the business aspects that are changing. So I hope that these new services and the subscriptions and packages and everything will be of benefit to you and make this a more affordable experience for you, so that I can actually be accessible to you in meaningful ways. And then on that note, as I've said the last couple of weeks, I'm going to be sharing a personal detail with you about myself, so you can just get to know me on a person-to-person level, because that's important to me, that you guys actually know who I am and that you can feel connected to me just as a regular person. And a lot of the stories that I do share with you in these readings, a lot of it's more the heavy stuff, about my background and things that I'm healing or stuff that I'm struggling with. Breakdown crying sometimes. So, I'm glad to share those things with you, but I also want you just to be able to see me as a person and kind of get a feel for my quirks and my eccentricities and all of that. I'm also introducing you guys each week to a new member of my Divine Guidance team, so that you can get a feel for who these messages come from when I do these videos or when I have sessions with you. So the personal detail about me this week, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my hometown. So I grew up in what I refer to as the boondocks of Missouri. I grew up way out in the middle of nowhere. My little town that I come from had less than 200 people. It was mostly a farming community, a lot of cattle, that sort of thing. So my little town had less than 200 people in it, and I'm pretty sure that was counting the cows. Since then, the population, I believe, has actually decreased. I think the last time I was out there, it had dropped down to 173. So, the main strip of town, I think, is maybe a quarter-mile long. There's not much to it. There's a couple of churches and a school, and the school is pretty much, I think, the only thing keeping that town going. It was originally a railroad company, and then when people stopped taking the train to go as many places, the town kind of died off. So that's where I come from. And most people would never guess that now. I would never have imagined that I would end up where I'm at, so close to a major metropolitan area. And I remember when I was 16, when I moved to Oklahoma, the first time that I visited Tulsa, which is actually a pretty small city too. First time I ever drove into Tulsa, and I was like, I'm never going to find my way around. I was super intimidated by all of the traffic and all of that craziness. And now I live so close to Seattle, and I go into Seattle all the time, and Seattle is a significantly larger city than Tulsa. So that's kind of my background and you know, where I came from and kind of where I'm at now. And it's just been such a major transformation for me over all these years. And I can hardly recognize I can't recognize the person I was when I was still living in my hometown. And every time I've gone back there, I was like, yeah, this is nostalgic, but I'm glad I don't live here anymore. I do love living out in the country, but if I move back out to the country at some point, it's not going to be to go back home. There are a lot of beautiful things about where I come from, but it's just not it's not in alignment with who I am anymore. So yeah, that's the detail about me this week. And then as far as the member of my team that I want to introduce you to, this one's not completely new. I've mentioned her before, but I wanted to mention her more in detail because she is so important to me. And the one that I'm introducing you to this week is who I refer to as my patron deity, and that's Quan Yin. And when I say patron deity, I have this theory that everyone has a patron deity. And what that basically means is that this is a god or goddess with whom you have a close energy signature. We have a lot of similarities in terms of your gifts and your abilities and your personalities and characteristics and all of that. And so that's what Quan Yin is for me. She is my patron deity. She is the one who works with me, the closest. She mentors me the most consistently. She was the first member of my team who ever identified herself on an individual basis, because when I first started interacting with my spiritual guidance team, they were all just kind of like one voice, but I knew that there were multiple individuals there. And part of the reason why I bring this up is because that's one of the most common questions that I get asked is, how do you connect to your divine guidance team? How do you know who each of them is? So Quan Yin was the first one who really opened up and identified herself one-on-one. And when she came to me, I was really going through my spiritual awakening, doing a lot of purging. It was very painful. It was a traumatic experience for me in a lot of ways. It's around the time that my mom passed away, and I fell out of contact with several members of my family, and a lot of things exploded during that time. And Quan Yin was the one who really kind of nursed me through that and helped me to not give up, because there were definitely times when I became suicidal because it was just all so much. And if you've been going through your spiritual awakening for a while, you know what that's like. You know how hard it can be. So Quan Yin was the primary one who helped me through it. And as I got through it and I started to, get stronger, she's been the one who's mentored me the most closely as far as my own mission work and this work, what I'm doing now. Quan Yin really does represent, compassion and love and balance and being tolerant and patient with everybody. And I am not perfect by any means. I still struggle with that. We all have our shadow sides, right? And it's not about getting rid of our shadows. It's about balancing things out. And Quan Yin really is my balancing force. She's helping me to connect more to that aspect of myself that is compassionate and that is very service-oriented. And her energy is very beautiful. It's very nurturing. It's very loving. I hope that you feel her energy when I do these readings, because she's always with me. She is the strongest being who is with me. So I really hope that you feel her. I know some of you have also picked up on Hathor or Mother Mary, and I kind of think of them as being synonymous with Quan Yin. They represent a lot of the same things. So if you do pick up on one of those other deities that's similar, I think that's why. And as far as, like I said, a lot of people ask how you connect to your divine guidance team. And honestly, it's pretty simple. Like, people make it way harder than it has to be. You connect to your divine guidance team by opening yourself up to them and asking for them to interact with you. Always put that disclaimer that you only want those beings who operate from the highest place of love and light to interact with you. But put out that call. Either, actually say it out loud, or you can do it in meditation. You can ask for them to come to you in your dreams. Whatever way, shape, or form, they're ready. They're there. They're always with you, and they want to communicate with you. So put out that call to them. Tell them that you're ready to interact with them. And then once you get kind of comfortable with interacting with them, you can ask them to individually identify themselves. That's what I did. I got to a point where I felt like, okay, I'm connected to my team as a whole, but now I want to know who all of you are. So could you please, when you interact with me, when you channel messages to me, when you tell me things or give me guidance, could you let me know who you are that's giving me that message so I can start differentiating between you? And this is a process that takes a while. It's taken me a couple of years to get to this point, but now I can individually identify each member of my team and what they have to offer, and I can tell the subtle differences between them, like the vocabulary they use or the energy signature that they have, how they feel. So that's really the plain and simple of how you connect to your divine guidance team. I've done a video on it before. At some point over the next few months, I'm going to try to do a live session on a few different topics, and that's going to be one of them, so you guys can actually ask me in real time questions you have about connecting to your team. So that's everything that I've got is before we get into the cards. So now we will jump into the themes for this week and what we're going to be going through. Before we get into the actual cards, there is something I want to clarify real quick. So a lot of people have contacted me and they were a little confused about who the Spiritually Awakened videos were actually for. And more particularly, they wanted to know if they were twin flame specific. The answer to that question is no, they are not twin flame specific. They do pertain to the twin flames, but these videos are for all light workers and also everybody who is really on their spiritual path, whether they refer to themselves as light workers or not. That being said, these videos do tend to cater more to people who have been on their spiritual path for a while, who have already been doing a lot of the healing work and connecting to their own spirituality and to their place in the universe and all of that. So you may find messages here that are pertinent for you if you're very new to the journey, but these readings do tend to cater a little bit more to people who have been on it for a while. But again, these are not twin flame specific, and I'm going to try my best to remember to announce that in all of the videos, at least for a while, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. All right, so finally, getting into the cards for this week. The first one that we have, and this denotes the theme for this week, is biting through. And this card is following on the theme that we've had for the last couple of weeks, which is about letting go of our self-limitations. Now, biting through is talking about taking decisive action, bringing balance back into your life by, cutting ties with anything that's holding you back. Now, this could pertain to external situations that maybe you've been holding on to because you weren't certain about, wait, do I cut ties here, or do I need to stick around because of obligation or because of, a potential future with this person or this job or whatever the case may be. It may pertain to some external situations that you're really needing to take decisive action on right now. But at a deeper level, this is really talking about, making that leap within to really stop limiting yourself. Now, I know this has been a theme for a couple of weeks, but this is a transition that we're going through, so it doesn't happen overnight. In most situations anyway, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a process that you go through where you really, dive deeper and you connect more to your shadow side, because that's where these self-limitations are. Now, we've been doing that for a while. Every time we dive in to heal something, we face our shadow side again. But it's been happening in layers, and now we're getting to these deeper layers where all of our self-limiting beliefs are really centered. And this is an opportunity for us to cut through all of that, to finally take that step where we start really believing in ourselves and we start really being confident about our ability to move forward in our lives and take these decisive actions, make these huge choices that we need to make, choose a direction at this crossroads that we're at. And this week is going to be a very powerful week to, again, cut through our self-limitations and really start moving forward in the direction that we want. But this week we are going to be going more within again. So last week we connected a lot more to the universe overall. We connected more to source energy so that we could understand ourselves better. And now we're taking those lessons that we learned by looking outside on a very big picture view, and we're going back into the microcosm so that we can understand ourselves again at a whole new level. And the reason why we had to connect to the universe on a broader scale in order to do that is because we needed a new perception of things. We needed a new perspective. We needed to be able to look at things a little bit different because our focus had become so narrow because we've spent so much time going within. So we needed to broaden back out again, get that big picture view, connect to source energy into the universe so that we could understand more fully our place in it, so that we could understand more the balance that we have within us. So now we're going back in again. We're going into these deeper layers and we're facing our shadow sides again. But as I've always talked about, our shadow side is not something to eradicate. A lot of people within the community talk about ego death. And some people literally are talking about trying to eradicate all aspects of yourself that are ego and that are human. That's not what I advocate. I advocate making peace with your humanity, because I really believe that one of the biggest lessons that we learn in our mortal lives is how to straddle those two worlds between, the spiritual and the physical. That is a big part of being human, is to recognize your own divinity and then balance that with your humanity, because that's also how we become master alchemists and manifestors, is to be able to connect to our divine essence, our divine power, and all of the abilities and gifts that come with that, and then to manifest those things into a tangible form of physical reality. So if you were to try to eradicate your shadow side entirely, first of all, I don't really think that's possible. And honestly, I think that even deities have shadow sides. That's part of why a big part of my divine guidance team consists of deities, because I find them to be the most relatable. I actually think gods and goddesses are the most human. I connect way more to gods and goddesses than I do to angels. And that's because I find them the most relatable. Maybe that comes from being raised Mormon and thinking of God as my literal father. So I find these deities to be very personable, and they have a shadow side as well. We see that a lot, especially if you look into the Greek mythology. All the gods and goddesses in that pantheon, they have their positive qualities, but they also have their weaknesses and their vulnerabilities. And the point is to balance those things, bring everything into equilibrium. That's a big part of the human experience, and that's what we're really focusing on this week, is to face our shadow sides again as an ally, as a friend, because part of what our shadow side does, that connection to ego, is it keeps us safe from things that are dangerous. But what can happen is if we get out of balance and we go too far into ego, we start thinking of things as being threats that aren't threats at all. And so this is a week where we are really balancing our divinity with our humanity, balancing, that soul essence with our ego. So that's the focus of this week. And we had to broaden back out last week and look at the entire universe and our connection to source energy so that we could have a new perspective when we go back in. So this week with Biting Through, this is another opportunity for us to really cut through the self-limitations, get through to another layer so that we can bring things better into equilibrium and balance. And the angel that we have working with us this week is Archangel Raziel. And Raziel is the archangel associated with mysteries. And when I talk about mysteries, I'm really talking about the overall mysteries here. And last week, in a lot of ways, Raziel was still with us, working with us to help us understand our connection to the universe. And we may have actually had him last week too. I don't remember for certain. But he's with us this week now to help us understand how those things that we got clarity on last week about our connection to source energy apply within us and into our own inner balance. He's also here to help us to really understand our shadow sides on a whole new level, so we stop thinking of our shadow as our enemy, and again, start thinking of it as an ally and something that we need to balance between our ego and our divinity. So Raziel is here this week to help us to connect to those deeper mysteries about ourselves and how that pertains to the universe and that source energy overall. And kind of the animal spirits that we got this week I thought were really interesting, because it does talk about that balance again, between between the light and dark, and you can actually see that in the colors on these cards first and foremost. So the first card that we have here is goat. And a lot of people associate goat with, like the horns and kind of the devil and that sort of thing. And there is a bit of darkness here, and there's some mischievousness and, some self-sabotage kind of that goes on here, where you can be too stubborn or, stuff like that. And so this is really this week representing our shadow sides and connecting more to our shadow and recognizing the positive qualities of it, and not being afraid of our shadow sides, not looking at the shadow as being the devil, but looking at the shadow sides again as being an ally and something that you work with that helps you to connect to that balance of the universe. Because again, I've talked about before, everything exists in opposition. So the universe consists of light and dark too, and there's an entire spectrum of gray within that. And so connecting with goat this week is helping us to connect into more that shadowy aspect of things, those darker energies. And then what we have on the flip side of that, and how that's going to help us, is that we're going to be through that connecting to cow. And cow is talking about more of this this fertility or this maternal aspect, this more feminine aspect of creativity and purity and that sort of thing. So by connecting to our shadows this week, we're also going to have a more powerful means of connecting to our creativity. And when we cut through our self-limiting beliefs and we stop trying to eradicate everything about ourselves that is human, we can recognize our true creative power. We have to balance the shadow with the light. We have to balance our masculine with our feminine. We have to bring balance into, you know, our ego and our divinity. We have to bring balance into everything. So that's the focus this week. And in order to connect truly to our ability to manifest, to our true essence as an alchemist, we have to acknowledge and work with our shadow side. And the goddess that we have with us helps us with that too, because we have Persephone. And Persephone, if you're not familiar with the mythology around Persephone, she was the daughter of Demeter. I believe that's how you say it. I'm not great with pronunciation of those things. But Persephone was the daughter of Demeter, who, you know, was kind of over agriculture and that sort of thing. And Persephone was abducted by Hades to be his wife, and she was taken down into the underworld. And then Demeter was just like, you know what, screw humanity, I don't care. I'm just going to throw everything into ice and frost and horribleness, and I don't care if you all die because I miss my daughter. Kind of an unhealthy relationship there. But this is not about Demeter, this is about Persephone. And what happened with Persephone is that Zeus kind of negotiated with Demeter and with Hades a little bit, so that Persephone was spending 6 months, you know, on Earth, and then 6 months in the underworld. And a lot of these stories that you read, they kind of paint Persephone out to almost be powerless, but that's not how I see her at all. To me, Persephone represents a couple of things, because she represents our ability, again, to balance those light aspects of us with the dark aspects of us. She, in a lot of ways, represents the seasons, you know, the spring and summer being when she's earth side, and the fall and winter being when she's in the underworld. So again, we're talking about balance between light and dark, between life and death, that sort of thing. But Persephone, I also think of kind of in terms of, she went through a metamorphosis herself. Because when you go into your shadow side, and this is why it's so important to go through those layers and to stop thinking of your ego as being your enemy. Because when you go into those shadow aspects of yourself, what you recognize is that you lose a little bit of that naivete, a little bit of your ignorance, because a lot of our deep wisdom comes from our adversities. It comes from the things that triggers us. It comes from our connection to our shadow side and the things that we do to work with it, the things that we do to heal and all of that. So a lot of our wisdom comes from our connection to our shadow and how we work with it. And so Persephone, to me, she really represents a lot of that too, is really connecting to your shadow in a way where you're not thinking of it as the enemy, but you're thinking of it as this road to wisdom. Because also, you know, when Persephone married Hades, she became the queen of the underworld. So she went from just being, you know, a maiden who was kind of blissfully ignorant, you know, very innocent in a naive way, to seeing an entirely different world and becoming a ruler of that world, becoming a very powerful ruler. Like I said, a lot of the mythology tends to paint her as being powerless, you know, just kind of a pawn of the other gods, but I don't see her that way at all. I actually think that she's very powerful, because she represents this ability to adapt. She represents this ability to balance the different aspects of yourself. And she represents this metamorphosis where you connect to your power, you connect to your creativity, and you connect to wisdom through moving through your shadow, by interacting with your shadow, by thinking of it as an ally, by working with your shadow, instead of trying to ignore it, instead of trying to stay blissfully ignorant or naive. So I see her very much in that sense, where, you know, you connect more powerfully to all the aspects of yourself and bring those into balance in order to become this strong leader figure, to connect more fully to your own strength, because a lot of times we recognize our strength and our courage the most because of the adversities that we go through. I also really love Persephone because I think that she embodies a lot of compassion as well. It's kind of like that. It kind of ties into kind of the Beauty and the Beast story, right? Where Belle starts off with the beast and she's terrified of him, she hates him and that sort of thing. And because Hades literally abducted Persephone and took her to the underworld, which is not where she wanted to be, obviously there was that aspect of it. But over time she softened to Hades and she saw these positive qualities to him. And that led her into compassion and even further into wisdom. So this is another way in which connecting to your shadow actually serves you, because it helps you to be of greater service to others as well. But it helps you to have more compassion for yourself, more patience with yourself, to love yourself more. And then that translates into your relationships with other people, where you can have greater compassion for others because you can recognize in others the same vulnerabilities and weaknesses that you have within yourself that you're working with on a personal level. So to me, I feel like Persephone is a very powerful goddess, and that she's perfectly suited to help us to cut through our own self-limitations. And actually, she's a goddess that I've more recently started working with on a personal level. She's been working with me a lot lately, and it is an uncomfortable process, because there are a lot of things you have to acknowledge about yourself that maybe you don't want to. There are a lot of things that you have to see about yourself in terms of how you're holding yourself back that maybe you don't want to face, because once you face them, then you have to do something about it, right? So interactions with Persephone are not always comfortable, but she is a very powerful goddess, and she is a very compassionate goddess, and she really helps us to balance our light and dark, our life and death, our masculine and our feminine. You know, she really helps us to balance all of those things. And so she's an amazing goddess to have working with us this week, and I'm really excited to see her show up. Now, as far as the god that we have with us, it goes kind of hand in hand with that too, because we have Shiva this week, and Shiva is the destroyer. And what we're talking about with destroying this week, again, is those self-limitations, to stamp out anything that's holding us back from within. Because even if you have external situations in your life where you feel like you're being held back and you can't move forward, those external situations are manifestations of what we are experiencing within us. We always mirror into our external environment where we're at in our spiritual evolution within us. So if we really want to move forward, if we really want to make powerful changes in our lives, if we want to reach our goals, we have to let go of our self-limitations. And we have to, we do connect with our shadow side in a compassionate way, in a loving way, in an understanding way, but we also have to toe this firm line where we're like, no, I recognize that you, as my ego, are there to help me stay out of dangerous situations. But this is a perceived threat. It is not an actual threat, and so I'm not going to respond to it as though it is a threat. And this is one of the reasons why we had to connect to the universe, to source energy, so that we could view our problems through a different lens, so that we could see that our problems are not as big as we thought they were. Because when you look at things from the bigger picture perspective, you realize, oh, my problems were actually, in the long run, in the broad scope of things, in terms of eternity, not that big of a deal. I don't need to be so overwhelmed by this. And that's part of why we connected so powerfully to source energy last week, so that we could understand that going back within. And now what we can do is we can approach our ego with compassion, but also with firmness, and say, okay, I understand, and I appreciate that you are trying to protect me, but this is not the way to do it. It is time for me to take this quantum leap of faith. It's time for me to move forward. And what you are perceiving as a threat is not actually dangerous to me. And this is something that I need to do. I need to take this forward movement, even if it feels uncertain, even if it feels unsafe. This is not legitimately dangerous. This is not an actual life or death threat to me. So that's how you really balance those energies, is by approaching your ego with compassion and with love and understanding, and appreciating that your ego is there to protect you, but also using your divine essence to explain to your ego, to express to your ego that this is not actually a threat, and it is time for me to move out of the stagnancy and move forward, so that I can get stronger, so that I can develop my courage, so that I can level up, so that we can level up, because our ego is part of us, our shadow is part of us, but it does serve its purpose, and it's so important to bring that into balance instead of trying to eradicate it or run away from it. So both Persephone and Shiva are about facing these things head on, facing your power, your divinity head on, but also facing your shadow and your ego head on, and learning to balance those in a way that is productive, that is loving and compassionate and understanding, so that we not only balance that within ourselves, but so that we can also take that with us into our external environment and into our interactions with other people. So that's the overall theme for us this week. And I feel that it's again, a beautiful spot for us to be in. I always say that, but everything that's part of our spiritual evolution to me is a beautiful spot for us to be in. And this really is a powerful opportunity for us, again, to cut our self-limitations, to move forward from those things that are holding us back, and to take the decisive action to, take those steps, even if it feels uncertain, even if we don't know what's going to happen, because we don't. You never really know what's going to happen. Even if you think that you can predict everything, the way that the universe works, the way that the flow works, is that it can change direction in an instant. There is no way to be completely certain. You do a risk assessment, you look over everything, you make sure that you're doing this as well prepared as you can, but we also need to recognize that we're never going to be completely certain, and there is always a leap of faith required anytime you take decisive action to move forward. But if we want to reach our goals, if we really want to connect to our essence and to our purpose, we have to take those leaps of faith. So it is working with both our divinity and our ego to do that risk assessment with the ego, but also to utilize our divinity to keep the ego in check. Everything exists in opposition. Everything is what we're always working with things to develop this equilibrium. All right. Okay, so moving into how this is going to manifest for the feminine among the spiritually awakened collective. The first card that we have is magic and ritual. So in a more tangible sense, because I think of Isis, even though they're powerful spiritual lessons, I think of her as being very powerful in terms of being able to manifest things into physical reality. So magic and ritual, this is something that is more concrete. So this week, the feminine is really going to be focusing again on her ability to alchemize, to work with the universal flow, but you're going to be doing it in a more active way, recognizing the magic that is all around you through the life energy of Source. So you're going to be recognizing this magic, you're going to be working with this flow, and part of the way that you do that is through ritual. And that doesn't necessarily mean rituals with candles and crystals and stuff like that. If that is your forte, go for it, but it's not for everybody. For some people, that ritual may be, taking a walk through the woods to connect more to the universe and to understand that flow so you can work with it. For some people, that ritual may be as simple as your morning routine, but being more mindful of your morning routine, being more mindful of how your body moves when, say, you brush your teeth or brush your hair or change your clothes, being more mindful of all of the little things so that, again, you can recognize how you flow with the universe in those day-to-day routines that we take for granted because they flow so easily most of the time. So that's how it's going to manifest more in physical reality for the feminine. On a spiritual level, we have Princess of the Autumn Harvest. So this card showed up, I believe, last week, although I think maybe the masculine got this last week. I can't remember exactly. But the Princess of the Autumn Harvest is talking about a sense of disappointment because what you wanted, you didn't get, and you don't understand why. Because it's like, well, I did all the work, so why do I not have what it is that I want? So at a spiritual level, what we're learning this week is to, again, connect to that universal flow and recognize that what we wanted may not have been in our highest good, or maybe that it's just not time for us to have it yet. Because with this card, the divine is really talking about how what's waiting for you, what the divine actually has lined up for you, what your higher self actually has lined up for you is way better than what you thought you wanted. But because at that ego level, we don't have that bigger picture perspective, and at that ego level, we don't have that perception of the future, we fall into uncertainty and things like that. We also fall into that self-limiting ideology where it's like, well, I really want this. But what we're not recognizing is that what we're actually capable of, what we're actually deserving and worthy of, is so much more than what we believed. So this is how it pertains to cutting back our self-limitations, is by opening ourselves up to receive even more than what we believe we're capable of, and recognizing that we didn't get what we wanted because it wasn't in our highest good, it wasn't truly in alignment with our purpose, or that we're just not quite ready for it yet because there's other developments that we need to go through still that will facilitate true success. and forward momentum when we do achieve those smaller goals. The divine is really working with us. As always, they want to do things as efficiently as possible. They want to make sure that whatever comes to us in terms of these opportunities for forward movement is actually going to serve our highest good and is going to get us to where we need to go in the most efficient way possible. So that's how it's going to manifest on a spiritual level. So if you are feeling a sense of disappointment about not getting something that you wanted, please recognize, again, that this is not about you not being worthy. It's not about you not being deserving. It's not about you being wrong, okay? This is about either you not being completely ready to move forward because you are still holding yourself back through the self-limiting idea of this is all I deserve, or what's actually waiting for you is way better. And if you had gotten what you wanted, you wouldn't have been prepared for what's coming to you. So the divine, again, is also trying to protect us here, where sometimes we don't get what it is that we want because not only is what's waiting for us even better, but if we had taken that, if we had been presented the opportunity to have what it was we thought we wanted, that might have caused a further roadblock for us, more obstacles that we then would have had to remove in order to have what's actually meant for us. So it's actually a blessing sometimes to not get what we want. It's hard for us to see that in the moment because we wanted it so much. But it's so important for us to take, again, a broader picture view as we're going within. We're also learning to do that, balancing the microcosm with the macrocosm. So when you go within, don't narrow your focus again the way that we've been prone to doing. When you go within, remember what you learned last week about your connection to the universe and the flow of the universe, so that you can recognize, okay, I didn't get what it was that I wanted. This does not mean that I was wrong or unworthy. It means that what is waiting for me is better, and I just need to continue working on my self-mastery and open myself up to receive more than what I believe currently that I'm deserving of or capable of. Now, the medicine cards gave us a couple of cards, and I'm actually pretty excited about both of them. So the first card that we get is Hummingbird. And I've mentioned before, Hummingbird is one of my favorite cards in the deck because Hummingbird is associated with joy and beauty. So one of the things that we're going to be needing to focus on this week, going along with that magic through ritual, is, being mindful of things and looking for all of the ways in which you already have a lot of beauty. You already have a lot of joy in your life. Again, we, as humans, we tend to narrow our focus and not see all of the blessings we have. We tend to focus on the things that we don't have, that we want. So one of the ways that we're going to powerfully manifest the things that we do want, that are in our highest good, and when I say want, I don't mean that from the ego level, I mean that from that soul level, and that understanding of what we actually deserve. We need to connect to the beauty and the joy and the love that is already in our lives. Even if you have a really hard time seeing that right now, even if you are in the depths of depression and you don't see anything that's beautiful or lovely or amazing about your life, find a way to do that by being more mindful in the moment. Being bipolar, I have dealt with depression for most of my life until I got things managed and sorted out with my neurochemistry. And I know that one of the things that happens when you get depressed is you literally don't have the energy to care. Like, you are just so apathetic because it's like you're so miserable that you stop caring. And you don't want to find things that make you feel better. You don't want to recognize the joy and beauty in your life because it just takes so much energy, and you get so accustomed to being in that depressed state that it almost becomes addictive. So this is especially pertinent for those of you who are really struggling this week. It's pertinent for all the feminine, but it's especially pertinent for those of you who are really struggling this week. Please find a way to find the beauty and the joy that already exists in your life. Go out in nature or go spend time with people that you love. Whatever it is that will help you to connect to the beauty that you already have, please, please, please do that. I know that it takes a ton of energy when you're having a hard time, but it's so important for you to do that because, again, as I've talked about before, we're in a phase right now where we are rewiring our neural pathways, and the best way for us to do that is through daily practice and just, staying on top of it, making that effort every single day. One of the things that I always tell my clients who are having a hard time and they're needing to rewire their neural pathways to get into a better state, a lot of, the cliche is like, find one thing to be grateful for every day. If you're having a really hard time, don't just start with one thing. Try your absolute best to find at least 5 things every day that are beautiful in your environment, even if, or beautiful about yourself too. But even if it's so hard for you to do that, even if it takes a tremendous amount of effort, find at least 5 things a day that are beautiful and amazing or lovely to you, things that have assisted you, things that have helped you, people who you love, things in nature that inspire you, books that maybe have inspired you, anything and everything that you can possibly think of, because that's how you become an alchemist. That's how you become a manifester of positive things, is by connecting more powerfully to all of the beautiful things that you already have in your life. Okay. The next card that we have is Crow. And this is, Crow talks about universal law. So again, we're still connecting to the universe. Don't lose that big picture view that we got last week. We need to balance our microcosm with our macrocosm, and Crow helps us to do that, because Crow helps us to understand universal laws. When I say universal law, I'm talking about a lot of times tying it into quantum mechanics, where it's like karma, which is the law of cause and effect. I've said this before, karma is not a punishment reward system. It is a system through which we learn lessons based on cause and effect. Everything that happens has a consequence. It has an effect. So that's one of the universal laws. Another one of the universal laws is that time is not actually linear. It's more like a spiral that kind of stacks on top of each other. And if you connect powerfully to your intuition, to your divinity, you can be able to see the future in a sense. You see the past, the present, and the future all simultaneously. That's what your intuition does. Your intuition does not just connect you to the future. It's not a fortune teller. Your intuition helps you to connect to the universe and understand that the past, the present, and the future are not mutually exclusive. They are all part of the same thing, and you can affect all of them by affecting one. Okay, so what you do in the present moment can actually like recalibrate your past experiences through those neural pathways. It can create the future that you're wanting. What you do in this present moment affects both the past and the future. And so Crow also helps you to connect to that universal law and make use of it as a manifester. Okay, so Crow is here this week to help you connect to all of the universal laws. And I always tell people when Crow shows up, if you haven't explored quantum mechanics, just explore it. Even if you find that you don't agree with it, just explore the concept. Okay, open your mind a little bit and be willing to at least discover other possibilities. Okay, Crow is there to help you to discover these other possibilities, to help you to connect more to that source energy, which we did last week, but now Crow is helping us not only to connect to source energy, but to apply it into our own lives. So again, look at quantum mechanics, look at those universal laws. There's tons of easy to understand documentaries on YouTube that you can watch for free. A lot of them were done through like the Discovery Channel or the History Channel, stuff like that. But they find very relatable ways to explain quantum mechanics to those of us who are not great with the math. I am not a math person, but conceptually you can get to a point where you can understand these universal laws and apply them to your own life. So that's going to be really important. So feminine, on a spiritual level, recognize that anything that feels like a disappointment to you right now is preparing you for something better, and open yourself up to receive more than what you believe that you are worthy of or even capable of handling. Do this by recognizing the magic that is already in your life, recognizing the lessons you learned last week about that universal source energy, and then apply that to your life in very tangible ways through daily ritual. And then that daily ritual, utilize that as an opportunity and a time for you to see more of the joy and the beauty and the love that you already have within your life, because that will help you to connect more to Crow, who then assists you in utilizing those universal laws and your connection to source in a way where you can manifest things powerfully into your physical life. This is a positive feedback loop. It can become a negative feedback loop if you choose to dive so deep into your shadow and into your ego that you lose yourself. Again, going back to the theme overall for this week, balance your divinity and your ego. Balance the light and dark, the masculine and feminine, the light and the shadow, the warmth and the cold. life and death, balance, 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 and do that through your connection to source and bringing that within you in very ritualistic, small, tangible ways every day that make it real for you. Okay, so moving into the tarot cards for you, feminine. The first one that we have is the Hanged Man. So the Hanged Man, as always, is talking about a shift in perspective. This is what you are going through. You are making a shift in your perspective, in the way that you see things. This is something we've been going through for a while. It's part of the metamorphosis and the transformation and change that we are going through. And it's manifesting right now as our ability to recognize the ways that we limit ourselves and recognize how we can stop limiting ourselves without eradicating any aspect of ourselves. Okay, this is about gaining a new perspective that allows us to bring things into equilibrium and balance. The next card that we have is the Magician. Here we are tying into the magic again and ritual. And this is, as as above, so below. So again, you're connecting to source energy, you're connecting to the universe so that you can understand how to manifest these things into your physical reality. You are a magician, not a stage magician. I'm talking about actually magic, all right? The entire universal energy is magic. It is pure life force that you can learn to work with because it is part of you and you are part of it. And through that recognition that you got last week, that's how you're going to be able to establish things into your physical reality. You're going to be able to master that as above, so below aspect by becoming an alchemist and a master manifester. Recognize the magic that you have within you because you are comprised of that source energy and that pure life force that all magic comes from. The next card that we have for you is the Three of Wands. So the Three of Wands talks about, and actually, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong about this, but I was thinking last week the feminine got the Two of Wands. The Three of Wands is talking about, really strategizing. You're making a plan. The Two of Wands is kind of recognizing that you have the whole world in your hands and recognizing, okay, I could literally do anything, and just assimilating that idea that I could do anything and opening your mind to that aspect alone. The Three of Wands, you're kind of leveling up here and you're like, okay, not only can I do anything that I'm wanting, how do I do that? I'm going to strategize. I'm going to come up with a game plan. Let's figure out how to do this. Let's pick a path. Let's choose a direction to go in based on the goal that I have and the ways that I want to work with to get there. Because as I've mentioned before, we have certain destination points, not one destination, we have certain destination points at the soul level that we created in our blueprint for our soul path. But there are multiple paths that we can take to get to that destination point. And this is what the Three of Wands is really talking about. Where the Two of Wands was recognizing and acknowledging that that destination point is there. We determined it at that soul level in accordance with the divine and source energy. But the Three of Wands is like, okay, I know that that destination point is there. I know where I'm headed now. I know all of these paths get there. Which one's going to serve me the most? Which one is going to be the most enjoyable for me to take? Because you can do things the hard way, or you can choose a path that is more scenic, that's more beautiful, that's going to give you a lot more positive experiences. You choose the path. The destination point is the same, but you choose the path that you're going to take to get there, and that's what the Three of Wands is about. Now, what you may run into that may hold you back is this Nine of Wands, and this is one of our self-limitations here, and this is connected to that Princess of the Autumn Harvest, that feeling of disappointment about not getting what you wanted. Because there is an aspect, since we have been working so hard for so long, where we're just tired. We're just exhausted, and we're like, is this ever going to go anywhere? I'm tired. What I thought was going to happen, what I was working so hard for, didn't happen. Is it even worth it to keep trying? And the answer is yes, of course it's worth it to keep trying. And what's also very important to realize here, nines are close to a completion point. So don't think that you are back to zero level, okay? Even if everything that you thought was going to happen blew up in your face, don't think of that as you negating back to zero. That is not it at all. Everything that you experienced was part of your progress. It's part of leading you to where you're actually meant to go. There is never anything we experience that is pointless. Everything helps us to learn. Every path we take teaches us lessons. So even if you didn't get what you wanted, or you're not seeing things turn out the way that you were expecting, don't let exhaustion stop you from moving forward, and don't let yourself believe even for an instant, that you're now back to the beginning, because you are not. You are still close to a completion point. And that's what this transformation is teaching you, is that everything that you've experienced up to this point is actually assisting you and helping you to move forward into where you actually are meant to be. It's helping move you towards your purpose and helping you to move further into your soul purpose, your life path, your soul path, whatever you want to call it. You have not reverted back to ground zero. Everything that happened was part of your progress, and you are so close to a completion, so don't give up now. And then finally, we have the Nine of Cups, and the Nine of Cups is talking about wishes fulfilled. So again, this is close to a completion. It's not quite at completion, but as you're connecting to that magic and connecting to your status as the magician or the manifestor, the alchemist, whatever you want to call it, you are going to be able to understand even better what it is that is actually meant for you, what it is that you actually desire beyond what you even believe that you were capable of or that you were worthy of before. By the end of this week, the goal is for you to get to a spot where you're like, you know what, this is what I actually want. It seems impossible, but you know what, this is what I want for myself. Because taking that quantum leap of faith and taking the steps forward towards something that seems so uncertain and maybe seems unattainable right now, that is part of your progress. It's part of your metamorphosis. That is you mastering manifestation, mastering self-mastery, mastering that inner balance that allows you to be in balance with the universe. That Nine of Cups is letting you know your wishes are going to be fulfilled. Do not give up. Recognize that you are close to a completion point, and recognize that everything it is that you are wanting is right there. You are at the cusp, so do not give up. All right. If anything, expand your vision even more. Recognize that you are so much more deserving and you are so much more capable than you ever were willing to believe about yourself before. Okay. So the first card that we have this week for the masculine, Isis brings us Osiris, basically. We're being brought proper burial for freedom. And so working so closely with Osiris, this is talking for the masculine about a death and resurrection process, death and rebirth, letting things die that no longer serve you. Again, this may manifest as something in your physical environment that you've been on the fence about whether or not to let go of, but at a deeper level, this is about self-limitations. Anything that is holding you back because it made you feel safe, okay? Because again, the ego is there to help us feel safe. And in a lot of ways, I feel like masculine energies, as a rule, this is my personal opinion, that masculine energies do focus more on that stability sense and making sure that things are safe and, you know, that they're secure and all of that. So while that's good in some ways, that can also be an extremely limiting factor where you're reluctant to take big leaps of faith because it's not safe, because it feels uncertain. And as the masculine energy, and even our society has programmed us to believe that the masculine is responsible for that sense of stability and security, being the provider and all of that, right? Again, that is good to keep those things in mind, to be wary, to use caution, to do risk assessments, that sort of thing. But don't let it get to a point where it stops you from moving forward towards things that are actually going to benefit you. Yes, do your risk assessment, but really look at, is there a potential for this to really provide something that is productive, something that is going to powerfully help me to manifest my goals? It's also really important for you to connect to your intuition, because your intuition, as I was talking to the feminine about with Crow, your intuition will help you to connect to your future and to understand how the actions you take in the present moment will affect your future, and in a sense how it can almost rewire your past as well. So take this time to let any of those self-limitations die. It is time. They need to go. Doesn't mean that you just, you know, run off all reckless and do whatever it is that you want to without thinking about the possible consequences. That is not it at all. But this is talking about a wise risk assessment where you are balancing, again, your divinity, your intuition with your humanness and your ego, so that you can really get a clear picture about how much of a risk this actually is and what the potential consequences are, so you can make a wise decision. But don't allow yourself to automatically be limited when you see, oh, this is a risk, unsafe, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to stick with what I've got. I'm going to stick with what I know, because at least I know it's safe, it's secure, it's stable. And especially this is true if you feel like you are responsible for the well-being of others. If you are very much a provider and a man of the house in terms of our social programming, you're even more susceptible to allowing yourself to be held back by these fears of uncertainty and things not being safe and secure. So really tap into your intuition, balance that with your ego, and recognize through a wise risk assessment whether this is the right step for you to take. It doesn't mean that you have to take this step. But what it does mean, because there are going to be other opportunities, all right? There's not just one opportunity for our lives. That's ridiculous. The universe will bring us multiple opportunities throughout the course of our lives. So if you choose, ultimately after doing a risk assessment, a wise one that's balanced between your intuition, your inner knowing, and that ego aspect of wanting things to be safe and secure, if you don't take this opportunity, okay. It's not about that. The universe isn't trying to force you to take any one opportunity, but the universe is wanting you to become that true alchemist, to really be that master manifester and create what it is that you're wanting for yourself. And that does require an aspect of risk. It does take a leap of faith, and you are perfectly capable of doing that. But first you have to let go. You have to allow to die the social programming that puts so much pressure on you. You have to allow to die any of those self-limitations that says if it's even a little bit risky, I can't do it because I am responsible for other people, or because I need to make sure that things are safe and they're stable and they're secure. It's good to be cautious, but it is not so great to hold yourself back from things that could actually dramatically improve your situation in life simply because it is uncertain, okay? The next card that we have on a spiritual level, this is going to be manifesting for you through the Mother of Mercy, which I think we got recently for you guys as well. And the Mother of Mercy is talking about how our choices, our actions affect others. So there's a strong connection here with that universal law of karma, cause and effect. Again, not punishment reward, cause and effect. It is very important for you to recognize the cause and effect aspect this week instead of thinking of it as a punishment and reward. Because one of the self-limitations that you're allowing to die is any guilt or shame you feel about choices that you made in the past that didn't pan out. Because you don't want to be afraid of making positive choices moving forward. You don't want to be afraid of taking any sort of risk and taking that leap of faith based on past experiences. Because the energies are different now, the universe is different now, and you are different now. You have grown since you made those past decisions. So yes, even if you have things in your past, and we all do, where a choice that you made ended up not being good for you or for other people, it's so important for you to connect to that universal law of cause and effect, and to recognize these things as cause and effect, not as punishment and reward. Not that you screwed up, not that you were wrong, not that you're an awful person. You don't want to be held back by fear or guilt or shame about past experiences. You do, however, want to be aware still of your ability to impact the lives of others and bring that into balance. Again, this is, focusing in on balancing that ego aspect of wanting to make sure that things are stable and secure and safe, but also knowing, trusting your inner knowing, your intuition, when you get an opportunity that you feel, that on that soul level is a good one for you to take. But you do want to make sure that you are not being reckless. So this is a big theme for the masculine this week, is making sure that you're not being reckless in your decisions, but also making sure that you are doing that wise risk assessment, but not letting uncertainty hold you back. All right, you want to find that middle ground where you are focused, you have focused intent, because in order to truly powerfully manifest, you do have to be focused in your intent. And we got that with that first card that we had, biting through. It's being a surgeon, knowing, trusting, being confident. If you don't feel right about it, if at that soul level you don't feel right about an opportunity that comes to you, then don't take it. Just because an opportunity comes to you doesn't mean that you have to take it. Again, balance things out. Risk assessment, don't let yourself be held back by fear or guilt or shame though. All right, find that middle ground, focus your intent, and trust yourself. Connect to that universal law of cause and effect, and to that understanding that time is not linear, and that through your intuition you can connect more powerfully and understand the past, the present, and the future all simultaneously instead of thinking of them as mutually exclusive. All right. The medicine cards give us a couple of cards that seem kind of almost kind of in conflict with each other. The first card that we have is possum. All right. The next card that we have is butterfly. Those are two animals that seem like they're dramatically different, right? But possum this week is talking about a couple of things. So possum is very much about strategy, and possum is kind of about playing dead. And so it's important to recognize that as you are allowing certain aspects of yourself to die, the fear, the guilt, all of that, those self-limiting beliefs and the social programming, that nothing about you is actually dying. You are going through a transformation process, and that's how it ties into butterfly. This is not an actual death of you. This is you allowing to die just the self-limiting beliefs that are holding you back. Your ego isn't dying, your divinity isn't dying, you aren't actually losing anything of yourself, all right? So it may seem that way. Possums play dead, right? It may seem that way, but it is an act, all right? It is, you need to understand that these are just self-limiting beliefs that are holding you back. You're just shedding the things that are no longer serving you. You yourself are still intact. You are not going to lose any aspect of who you actually are in this process. The other thing with possum, again, like I was saying, is strategizing things. Really look at everything, do that risk assessment, plan everything out, and make sure that when you do take that step forward, if you choose this opportunity, if you choose the path that's presented to you, that you're doing it in a way that is strategic, where you have really looked at everything, because that is one of the ways that will help you to feel more safe and more secure here. Because even if things are uncertain, make sure that you've got, plan B and plan C and all of that, because that will help you to know that, okay, it is safe for me to take this direction, because even if this doesn't pan out, even if for some reason I am wrong, I still have other things that I can do. I still have other directions I can go. So it is actually very safe for me to take this opportunity, because this is not the be-all, end-all. This is not the only opportunity I'm ever going to have in my life. There are other things that I can do. There are other plans I can have, that sort of thing. All right, that will help you to balance out that intuition and that your ego needs to keep things safe and secure. That's how you find the middle ground. Also with possum, this is about not engaging in needless fighting. So if you have something in your external environment that you are letting go of because it's not serving you, because it is part of the limitations, and as you clear your self-limitations, you may recognize some things in your external environment that are limiting you. And some of that may come through relationships. And it doesn't even mean that the relationship will end, but there may be things that need to be addressed, or maybe the relationship does need to end. But possum is about not engaging needlessly in fighting. All right, don't seek out conflict and confrontation, and don't allow yourself to be triggered into conflict and confrontation. Make sure, again, that you are, you're taking that middle road. You're balancing those things out within yourself so that you won't be easily triggered. This is also important because if we decide that we're going to take a leap of faith that is a little uncertain, because all humans are afraid of uncertainty, and the people close to us don't trust our intuition, they don't trust our inner knowing, that can cause a fight. And in that fight, you can start to doubt yourself. So possum is kind of about playing dead in this sense, where you refuse to engage in arguments here. It doesn't mean you can't have conversations with people, but make sure that you're not allowing yourself to be triggered, because the minute that you move into being overly emotional, you can move into aggression, you can cause bigger issues with that person, but you can also end up doubting yourself and losing some of your own resolve to move forward, or just being distracted so that you don't move forward, okay? So possum is going to be really important for you to strategize and make sure that you've got, plan B, plan C, all of that stuff. You have all your ducks in a row so that you can feel safe to take any opportunity that you really feel at that soul level is right for you. And possum is also going to be recognizing that nothing about you is actually dying. The only thing that is going are the self-limiting belief structures. And finally, possum is talking about, refusing to engage in needless conflict and confrontation, making sure that you are staying balanced within yourself so that you can maintain balance in the relationships you have with others. And of course, butterfly is pretty self-explanatory here. You are going through a transformation process. You are right there at the cusp of of really transforming. You are breaking out of the cocoon. And well, in last week we were breaking out of the cocoon, and I actually feel like this week it's less about us breaking out of the cocoon and more about like having emerged from the cocoon, but now it's like, well, what now? This is my life. My whole life was preparing for this moment. What now? What do I do now? And this is about you deciding which paths are important for you, which ones that you want to take. All right, so that's going to be the biggest focus for you guys this week. So again, as a recap, you are letting go, you are allowing to die any social programming or self-limiting belief structures that hold you back. But again, this is just letting go and shedding the ideologies and programming that holds you back. It's not about any aspect of you dying. You are not trying to get rid of your ego, you're trying to bring it into balance with your divinity. You're looking at those universal laws, especially of cause and effect, but also of time, and understanding that by connecting to your intuition, you can feel safer in moving forward when you trust your intuition to guide you in the right direction, because your intuition does connect you to the future. Time is not linear. There's spirals that are kind of stacked on top of each other. So the future and the present and the past are not mutually exclusive. They are all overlapping each other. And through your intuition, you can get a better perspective on the past and understand why things happened, how they contributed to your growth and the growth of other people, but also give you insight into the future and the possibilities that are there from you taking this leap of faith. Also making sure, that you do that wise risk assessment, balance your divinity and your ego. Again, this is not about you trying to get rid of your ego. This is about you bringing everything into equilibrium. This is you being balanced as a masculine energy and being able to have that sense of safety and security even in the face of uncertainty. Okay. And again, with Possum, it's recognizing nothing about you is dying. You're not engaging in needless arguments. You are planning and strategizing for the future so you can feel safer. And then with Butterfly, recognize you are out of the cocoon, and now it's time for you to choose which direction you're going to go in and trust yourself. You would not have gotten to this point of, being the butterfly. You would not have gotten this far, survived like this, if you couldn't trust yourself. All right, so trust in how far you've come and know that you're headed towards things that are even better because of how much growth that you've gone through. The sky's the limit. Your potential is unlimited, okay? All right, so for the tarot cards, we're starting you guys off also with the Hanged Man. So shift in perspective here again. And you guys are shifting your perspective, especially about your connections with others and your inner balance. All right, because the next card that we have is the Lovers reversed. So this could be actual relationships that you have with other people that are imbalanced, or this could be your relationship with yourself that is imbalanced, and you're getting a new perspective on this. One of the things that I really love about this version of the Hanged Man, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but what's keeping him suspended here is a serpent, a snake that is wrapped around his leg. So snakes, I think, are largely associated with our shadow side. They're the temptation and all of that, but snakes are also about transmutation of energy and transformation, and they represent that very powerfully. So you are connecting to your shadow in order to really complete this transformation you're going through and get this new perspective. So with the Lovers being reversed, this is you recognizing that things have been out of balance, and then you're bringing balance back in. Part of the way that you're going to do that is through the Knight of Swords. Swords talk about our perceptions, our belief structures. They talk about our thoughts. They talk about communication, that sort of thing. So with the Knight of Swords, this could be, communication with others about your ideologies, about your goals, about what directions you think you want to go in. So it could be communication in that sense. The Knight of Swords can also imply that shift in perspective where you stop being held back by your fears. Because swords you're also cutting through things. So cutting through those self-limiting belief structures, getting rid of them and moving forward finally. The only thing that you really want to be careful of here is that knights, while they are more advanced than the pages, knights can still be a little bit reckless, because it's like, oh, I feel empowered, I'm going to do this, but you can be a little bit reckless here. So again, make sure that you're doing a wise risk assessment, you're planning things out, you're developing a strategy. Don't just rush forward and not think things through. That is not what a leap of faith is. I mean, maybe it can be. But for me, anyway, every time I've taken a leap of faith, I've always been like looking at everything, looking at all the potential outcomes, looking at all the possibilities, and making sure that I feel stable before I take that leap of faith forward. A leap of faith doesn't just necessarily mean that someone shoves you over the side of a cliff and you just trust that something's going to catch you. For me, anyway, a leap of faith is largely about having an inner knowing that this is the direction I need to go in, knowing that that's where I want to go, that that's what's going to provide me the best possible outcomes and contribute to my growth and help me reach my goals, but making sure that I have all of my ducks in a row before I take that step off the cliffside. All right, so make sure that you're not being reckless. The next card that we have is the Three of Swords. The Three of Swords is talking about a sense of heartbreak. Again, this is our thoughts and our ideologies, and I recognize this for you guys as being about those self-limiting beliefs. These are the self-limiting beliefs that you've had, and with that Knight of Swords, you're cutting through this, okay? You are releasing any sense of heartbreak, any guilt, fear, shame. You are letting go of all of your self-limitations, that sort of thing. But it is an uncomfortable process for you to go through because there is that sense of uncertainty, because a lot of you have been using, and not just masculine energies, women do this too, or feminine energies do this too, where you use your fears to protect you. That's how the ego operates. You use past experiences where things didn't go right to protect you from making the same choices again, making the same mistakes again. So you're letting go of these ideologies, you're cutting through them, you're moving forward, but there is a sense of fear there. And this is really about you making sure that you don't allow yourself to be held back from that. And the Seven of Cups is coming to you this week to remind you that the future really is in your hands. You are an alchemist. You are a master manifester. You can do whatever it is that you believe in, whatever it is that you believe your soul path is, that you feel at that deep level, at your soul level. You can do that, but it is up to you, because the Seven of Cups is like your hopes and your fears. All right, so you can fill those cups with amazing things and all of this faith and trust and all of these beautiful things that you're trying to create, or you can fill it with a bunch of fear that will stop you from moving forward. The choice is yours. The divine is not going to make this choice for you. The universe won't make it for you. It is up to you. This is a moment in your self-mastery that you have progressed to, where you literally create the circumstances that you're wanting for yourself by taking decisive action to move forward in one direction or another. All right, so that's what I've got for you guys this week. This is, as always, a great place to be in. Even if it doesn't necessarily feel like that, even if there are challenges there, it's a great place to be in, because you're getting an opportunity to move even further into your self-mastery, to really enhance your abilities as an alchemist and a manifester, and to really create the future that you're wanting for yourselves. We are, nearing this full completion point of this era of our lives. Keep going, keep working at it. Bite through, cut through any of the self-limiting behaviors and belief structures that are holding you back from this forward movement. Use these energies as an opportunity. Yes, sometimes opportunities come in challenging ways, but always make the most of any energy that you face, because it helps you to move further forward in your path. Wherever you're at right now is where you're meant to be at to get you where you're going, okay? So you guys have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.